Bear hunting is serious business. It's not just about luck, it's about outsmarting one of nature's most keen-nosed predators. Before every bear hunt, my routine starts weeks in advance. We're talking a full-on scent elimination process. Special detergent, baking soda, the works. Bears can smell better than we can see, so every little whiff matters. I even transport my clothes in airtight bags to keep them scent-free until I reach my hunting camp. Once I had a bear climb right up into my tree stand with me. It was a close call, but it taught me a valuable lesson. You can never be too careful when it comes to scent control. With my scent control locked down, it's time to focus on the gear. My weapon of choice is always meticulously checked and double-checked. Sights are aligned, and every part is in perfect working order. I pack my gear carefully, making sure everything is in its place. Extra layers for warmth, snacks to keep my energy up, and of course my trusty compass and map. The trail winds through the wilderness, a narrow ribbon of dirt cutting through dense forest and swampy lowlands. It's a beautiful sight, but I can't let my guard down for a second. The air is thick with the smell of pine needles and damp earth. The trail I was on, it was a narrow thing, winding along a ridge above a cedar swamp. Prime bear territory, you might say. The kind of place where you always feel like you're being watched. I was keeping my eyes peeled, my senses on high alert. The game trail was well worn, a clear sign that bears and other critters were using it regularly. Deer tracks, raccoon prints, and yes, the unmistakable paw prints of black bears. I slowed my pace, trying to stay quiet and avoid working up a sweat. The sun was starting to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows through the trees. I figured I had about 1.5 miles to go before I reached my hunting blind. That's when it happened. Out of nowhere, there he was, a black bear, less than 3 feet in front of me. My heart leaped into my throat. The bear, he looked just as surprised as I was. We stood there for a beat, frozen in time, both of us trying to process what was happening. It felt like an eternity, but it couldn't have been more than a few seconds. My mind raced. What do I do? What do I do? Instinct took over. I clapped my hands together, a sharp, loud sound that echoed through the trees. "Get out of here!" I yelled, my voice hoarse with adrenaline. The bear turned tail and bolted off into the undergrowth, disappearing as quickly as he'd appeared. I stood there for a moment, my heart still pounding in my chest, catching my breath. I took a deep breath and gathered myself. The encounter had shaken me up a bit, but I couldn't let it ruin my hunt. I still had a job to do. I continued down the trail, my pace a little quicker now, my eyes scanning the woods for any sign of movement. I reached my blind just as twilight was settling in. As I settled in for the night, I couldn't help but think that this bear hunt was already proving to be anything but ordinary. The blind was my sanctuary, a small space carved out of the wilderness where I could become invisible. I settled in, getting comfortable, arranging my gear so everything was within easy reach. But the encounter on the trail had left me a little edgy. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. As darkness fell, the woods came alive with sounds. Normally I found these sounds comforting, a reminder of the natural world I love so much. But tonight, they seemed amplified, closer, more intense. The memory of that bear's face, so close I could have reached out and touched it, kept flashing in my mind. Then I heard it. A low, guttural sound like a dog whining in its sleep, but much deeper, more primal. It came from somewhere down the trail, faint at first, then growing louder. My heart pounded in my chest. Could it be the bear? Had he circled back? The sound came again, closer this time, followed by the snapping of branches. Something was moving out there, something big. I gripped my rifle tightly, my finger hovering near the trigger. It was too dark to see clearly, but I could feel my senses on high alert. Then the sniffing began. It was right outside my blind, so close I could hear the bear's heavy breathing. He was mere feet away, his scent strong in the night air. Terror, pure and simple, gripped me. I was trapped, a sitting duck in a box of canvas and branches. He snorted, a deep rumbling sound that seemed to shake the ground beneath me. Suddenly, he let out a roar, an ear-splitting sound that seemed to echo through the entire swamp. But before I could react, he was gone, crashing off into the undergrowth. I knew I couldn't stay in that blind, not after that. My nerves were shot, my heart still pounding in my chest. I needed to get out of there, to put some distance between me and that bear. Carefully, quietly, I gathered my gear. Every move felt amplified in the stillness of the night. With a deep breath, I slipped out of the blind and into the night. The darkness seemed to press in on me, amplifying every sound, every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves. My flashlight beam cut a narrow tunnel through the undergrowth, but it couldn't penetrate the oppressive blackness that surrounded me. As I rounded a bend in the trail, my heart nearly leaped out of my chest. There, in the middle of the path, stood another bear. Its eyes glowed in the beam of my flashlight, 2 points of fire in the darkness. The bear stood its ground, watching me intently. For a moment, we just stared at each other, two predators caught in a strange, silent standoff. Instinct took over. I raised my hands above my head, making myself appear larger, more intimidating. To my surprise, the bear hesitated. It took a step back, its eyes still fixed on me. I pressed my advantage, yelling again, this time with even more force, even more conviction. "Go on, get!" the bear snorted, a deep rumbling sound that seemed to vibrate through the very air. But then, as quickly as it had appeared, the bear turned and lumbered off into the undergrowth. I watched it go, my heart still pounding in my chest, my body buzzing with adrenaline. Twice in one night, I had managed to scare off a bear with nothing but my voice and a whole lot of bravado. I continued down the trail, my pace quicker now, my senses still on high alert. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I reached my truck. The sight of it, parked there at the edge of the woods, filled me with a sense of relief, of safety. I climbed inside, locked the doors, and leaned back against the seat, letting out a long, slow breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I was exhausted, physically and emotionally drained. The encounters with the bears had taken their toll, leaving me feeling wrung out and shaky, but I was also exhilarated. I had stared death in the face, and I had come out alive. As I started the truck and pulled away from the trailhead, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The next day I returned to the woods, determined to make the most of my remaining time. The forest greeted me with its familiar embrace, the scent of pine and earth filling my lungs as I ventured deeper into the wilderness. The encounters of the previous night had rattled me, but they had also ignited a fire in my belly. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of something significant, something that would make all my efforts worthwhile. I was more determined than ever to bag my bear. Every movement, every sound in the forest seemed to carry a message, urging me to stay focused and vigilant. I spent the day scouting the area, looking for signs of bear activity. The forest floor was a canvas of clues, each track and broken branch telling a story of the creatures that roamed these woods. I found plenty of tracks and scat, but no bears. It was as if they were ghosts, leaving behind only whispers of their presence. The hours ticked by slowly, and as the sun began its descent, I started to worry that my luck had run out. The forest, once so full of promise, now seemed to mock my efforts. I settled into my blind, the familiar routine calming my nerves. The act of preparing my gear, of settling into the stillness, brought a sense of peace and purpose. The air was still and humid, thick with the smell of pine needles and damp earth. Every breath I took was a reminder of the wild, untamed beauty of this place. The woods were alive with the sounds of the approaching night, the chirping of crickets, the croaking of frogs, the distant hoot of an owl. It was a symphony of nature, a reminder that I was not alone in this vast wilderness. The last rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, painting the forest floor in shades of gold and purple. It was a sight that never failed to take my breath away, a moment of pure magic. The magic hour, as hunters call it, had arrived. This was the time when the forest seemed to hold its breath, when the line between reality and fantasy blurred. It was that time of day when the woods seemed to hold their breath, when anything felt possible. The anticipation was palpable, the air thick with the promise of adventure and discovery. Suddenly, without a sound, he appeared. The bear, the one I had been waiting for. The one that had haunted my dreams and filled my waking thoughts. He emerged from the trees like a phantom, his massive frame seeming to materialize out of the shadows. It was as if the forest itself had given birth to this creature of legend. He was huge, even bigger than I had imagined. His sheer size was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. He was only 15 yards away, his dark fur blending seamlessly with the shadows. Every muscle in his body rippled with power. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The adrenaline surged through my veins, making every second feel like an eternity. He hadn't seen me yet, but he was moving closer, drawn by some unseen force. Each step he took seemed deliberate, almost calculated. I took a deep breath, calming my nerves, reminding myself of all the hours I had spent practicing for this moment. This was what I had trained for, what I had prepared for. I raised my rifle, the scope finding its target with practiced ease. My hands were steady, my mind focused, my finger tightened on the trigger. This was it, the culmination of all my efforts. The shot echoed through the silent woods, a sharp crack that shattered the stillness. The sound was deafening, reverberating through the trees. The bear roared, a sound of pure fury and pain. It was a primal scream that sent shivers down my spine. He reared up on his hind legs, his massive frame towering over me. In that moment, he seemed invincible, a force of nature. For a split second our eyes met, and I swear I saw a flash of recognition, of defiance in his gaze. It was as if he understood the gravity of the moment, the battle between life and death. Then, just as quickly as he had risen, he collapsed. The forest held its breath, the silence deafening after the roar of the gunshot. I stayed in the blind, my heart still pounding, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The encounter had happened so fast it was hard to believe it was over. After what felt like an eternity, I climbed out of the blind and cautiously approached the fallen bear. He was indeed a magnificent creature, his thick black fur gleaming in the fading light. I knelt beside him, a strange mix of awe and sadness washing over me. As I worked to field dress the bear, my mind kept replaying the events of the past 2 days, the close calls, the adrenaline rushes, the final fateful encounter. 4 bears in total, each encounter more intense than the last. It was a hunt I would never forget, a testament to the power and unpredictability of the wild. Looking back, that hunt was more than just bagging a bear. It was a journey into the heart of the wilderness, a journey that taught me lessons I never expected. It was a crash course in respect, a deep and profound respect that can only be earned through experience. Respect for the raw power of nature, for its untamed beauty and its relentless force. Respect for the fine line between predator and prey, a line that can shift in an instant. And respect for the sheer unpredictability of the wild, where every moment is a dance with the unknown. I went in with a plan, sure, a detailed map and a clear strategy. But the wilderness had a way of rewriting the script, throwing unexpected challenges my way. 4 encounters, each one a heartstopper, each one a lesson in humility and survival. They taught me that out here, you're not always the one calling the shots. The wild has its own rules. Those close calls, they stayed with me, etched into my memory. A constant reminder to never let my guard down, to stay vigilant and aware, to never underestimate the creatures I share these woods with, each one a master of its domain. Yeah, I got my bear, a trophy for some, a symbol of success, but for me it's more than that. It's a testament to the journey, to the trials and tribulations faced. It's a symbol of a hunt that tested me, humbled me, and pushed me to my limits. And ultimately, it made me a better hunter, more attuned to the rhythms of the wild. And when I head back into those woods, I'll do it with a newfound appreciation for the wild, with a respect that runs deep and a healthy dose of caution, knowing that out there, anything can happen, and being prepared for whatever comes my way. The wild is unpredictable, but it's also a place of profound beauty and endless lessons.